Welcome back. In this new segment, aptly called the Oxford Business Group Corner, or simply OBG Corner, editorial manager of the PNG report, Mark Venditti, speaks to Lesieli Taviri of Origin Energy about, amongst other issues, what's new and noteworthy from the company and what her thoughts are on the energy sector in PNG.
Hi there, my name is Marco. This is the Oxford Business Group Corner, or the OBG Corner, and we're going to talk about business, and tonight we'll do that with Lesieli Taviri. He's our first guest for the year, and I would like to ask her several questions about business, about Origin Energy, but first of all I would like to ask you something personal. You are a general manager of a very important international company. You're the chairman of the Business Coalition for Women. You're getting an MBA at the Australian Chiefly Business School, so the first question is, where do you find the time to do all of that?
I have no idea. I surprise myself all the time.
Okay. And you're also a mother too, if we understand.
Yeah, I am. I think I'm very efficient in actual fact, okay. And planning is a big part of my role, I suppose. So I try and plan. I've got this ridiculous timetable, believe it or not, that I'm always doing something. So planning between Monday and Sunday. So yes. I do keep busy, very busy.
But when you think, when women looking at you, I mean, obviously this is a program they want to reach also women and men on the street. When they're looking at you and they're seeing somebody so busy, they're thinking, can I do something like that? You know, can I ever achieve something like that?
I think that's, I suppose, one of the motivating factors for me also is the biggest challenge I think we have in this country is a limited skill pool. And so when the opportunities kind of come up, you feel kind of obliged and a huge sense of responsibility to take it on. And I think it's part also of motivating the younger generation to kind of step out of your comfort zone and to take ownership of some of these issues and the drive for change, and to be able to step up and, you know, just have a spirit of volunteering, I suppose.
Do you feel in a way that you are a role model?
Oh, yes, I do. I have to, and I think, like I said, I think there's need for more role models out there. So I do think I am a role model, yes.
And once I heard you saying, you know, we are 50% of the population, and we should take also 50% of our resources in a way of what this country has to offer. Do you think that women in PNG are ready for that step, do you think?
I think they are ready for that step, to be honest. And I think there's a number of things that come into play. I mean, I've always said, you know, are we really ready, like what you're saying is, are we really ready to settle for half the potential this country has to offer in terms of skill? And I think we're ready because we're a country that has, you know, one of the highest, I suppose, rates of economic boom. And I think, you know, a lot of the resources sector and a lot of sectors are actually booming and requiring a lot of, demanding a lot of skill. And I think we need to start looking at developing women who are half of the country's potential in terms of skill. We need to start developing them to be able to step up.
Yes. And in a way, I mean, many people say PNG is not only Port Moresby, PNG is out there. You need to travel to discover this country. And when you do see that women actually have a lot of power when they're back in the villages, decision making not only about householding, but much more. And the fact that many many cultures in this country are matrilineal. So in a way, you do have a history of that. It wouldn't be something completely new, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. I think in a lot of cultures where it's matrilineal, it's, I suppose, women are already exposed to that type of leadership in the cultural setting, so it's about carrying that forward into business and making it work in business and complementing business, I suppose. So.
Right, well. Well, let's talk about business. Obviously, Origin is a very important company. You want to tell us what you're doing specifically in PNG. You have, as an institute, as a company, wide experience internationally, but each country has its own problem, obviously. So what would you say is the priority when it comes to the energy sector of Papua New Guinea?
Okay, so I think for me personally, running an energy company, I think energy is critical for social development and economic development. It's a key enabler for people to be able, access to energy is a key enabler for people to have access to, I suppose, provide more opportunities for productive activity. I suppose without energy, how do you expect people not to be productive? So for us as an energy company, Origin is a quarter owned by a local super fund, private super fund, Melanesian Trustee Services, and 3/4 of it is owned by Origin Holdings. And for us is we're looking at opportunities. Traditionally our core business was supplying and delivering liquefied petroleum gas to households and businesses, predominantly for cooking. That's been our traditional business over the last 50 years almost. But now we're looking at, there's so much opportunity out there for other energy solutions as well, because the current energy market is underserved. You look at the coverage that PNG Power has right now, which only reaches about 15%, less than 15% of the country, and you wonder what are other people using. Exactly. So I think the opportunity is there, and as a private entity, we're creating more energy solutions to be able to reach or breach that gap. Mm-hmm. Not only to expand our business, but also in the greater span of things in terms of, you know, providing essential services for our people.
Absolutely. Would you say in that sense your company is slightly different from, you know, the great big multinationals that are coming here in the extractive industries, and they don't really make a difference at the end of the day to the man on the street and the men and women in the villages, whereas your company has that completely different reach in that sense?
Yeah, I think it has. In particular here in PNG, I mean, Origin Holdings has always been a company that has a very strong social and community kind of obligation agenda as part of our corporate strategy. And I think here in PNG it's more predominant because it is a developing country and the opportunities are immense. So, you know, although we're running a business and returning a profit to our shareholders, it's also about finding purpose in the business as well, and I think there's great purpose in PNG.
Right. One of your slogan is that at the end of the day, making energy is the same thing as making bread and milk and delivering to the people. What do you mean with that exactly?
Absolutely. It's at the end of the day, it is about providing essential services to the consumer at the end of the line, which is the average Papua New Guinean. So, you know, energy is just like any other consumer product. So it's about accessibility, making it affordable to people as well. Right.
So how are you going to reach these people? Because PNG obviously has a specific problem. Its territory is rugged. It's not easy to reach with the normal grid. So you're looking at alternative sources of energy. So what do you think will be the answer? Obviously solar power is something that I know that you're very involved in it.
Yeah, I believe solar power has great potential in this country in particular, and it's a good, I suppose, energy model because of the way that the country is kind of, the terrain is kind of structured, where in a lot of provinces and villages you have pockets of villages within a 100-kilometer radius. So having small mini grids, you know, powered by solar, I think is an option that should actually be pursued and is something that we would probably look into in terms of developing a long-term strategy. But in terms of our core business and distribution, we actually work with a lot of small and local businesses who are our dealers, who actually distribute our products out there to the market where there's obviously accessibility in terms of road. So a lot of the retailing is actually done by our distributors, or local businesses, most of them, yes.
Yes. Do you feel that this administration is putting enough attention when it comes to renewables and long-term and sustainability when it comes to the energy sector?
No, I don't think so. I think we're a long way away from that. I think partly that problem is also, I suppose, exposure and education into a lot of these new technologies, in particular renewable energy. I think it's still a new concept to Papua New Guinea, and the other thing also is setting up, I suppose, what's critical is, I suppose, the regulatory framework around all of that as well. So.
Okay. What would you like to see in the regulatory framework that could improve the situation?
Well, for starters, I'd actually like to see the energy sector being deregulated in some areas so that we can promote the concept of independent power providers to be able to come in and actually add to the grid. I think that's a great business model because I think our energy needs are more urgent than anything, to be honest.
The government alone cannot do it.
That's right. The government alone cannot do it, and that's where the private sector is standing up companies like Origin and saying, you know, we can contribute to that.
There's been an announcement recently that ExxonMobil will be willing to provide a certain amount of feedstock, gas feedstock, and specifically for the Pacific Games. Are you happy to see that sort of development? I mean, to see...
Yeah, I mean, with any kind of investment, the question is always the long-term sustainability of that investment and whether it reaches, I suppose, the greater population. And so whilst there's a lot of focus on Port Moresby, you know, that's only, you know, a certain coverage area of the country. What about the rest of the country where the other, you know, 7 million people actually live?
So we go back to that PNG, it's not only Port Moresby, there is something else out there, and you need to reach it.
I think we need to have a holistic view, and actually it's good that we're supplying, you know, energy to be able to alleviate or help the Port Moresby grid with Kanudi, but, you know, what about all the other locations where we're using thermal energy, and what about accessibility from areas that are off-grid? What are we doing about that?
Do you feel that a master plan is still lacking in that sense?
Yeah, I think it is lacking in that sense. And like I said, I think the need to actually introduce, you know, a cost-effective business model where we could generate and actually deliver electricity or energy to more people is needed.
Without electricity, obviously PNG will stay behind when it comes to socio-economic development. There is no question about that.
There's no question about that. It is a key enabler. Education and education and energy is all. I always say E square.
They go hand in hand.
Yes.
Yeah. What sort of managerial style do you have when you sit in your office?
I think the energy industry is a very male-dominated industry, and I think you know, as a leader, we all face leadership challenges, no matter what industry that we're in. But especially when it's male-dominated, I think there's extra effort that needs to be put in, especially when you're a woman, to be able to build rapport, you know, with your other male colleagues or with your other male subordinates. So quite often it means moving out of your comfort zone. So I'm not your typical office air conditioning girl, you know, in the aircon type of girl. I'm half of the time I'm in my field uniform out, you know, helping the guys or watching what they do. So I'm very operational as well in that sense.
Hands-on.
Very hands-on, yeah. Have to be.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Is there anything else you would like to add maybe to this discussion that you think it's
no,
very
I don't
important
think
at the moment? All right then.
But thank you for having me, Marco.
Thank you so much. Take care.
And that's all we have for you tonight. For more business news, so if you would simply like to view this episode again, visit MTV online at www.mtv.com.pg/business. Or to join the conversation, like our page on Facebook for daily business news, or follow us on Twitter at BusinessPNG using the hashtag BusinessPNG. Until next week, have a pleasant evening. I'm Leanne Jarari, and this is Business PNG.